Selandia Baru merupakan sebuah permata hijau yang tersembunyi di Samudra Pasifik Barat Daya. Terletak sekitar 1.500 km di sebelah tenggara Australia, negara kepulauan yang terdiri dari pulau utara dan pulau selatan ini menawarkan isolasi geografis yang justru menjadi berkah bagi kemurnian alamnya.
$52 billion, New Zealand's economy is the 52nd largest in the world in nominal terms. Where once this economy was dominated by agriculture, following a restructuring in the 1970s and 80s, services now form over 2/3 of wealth creation in the country. New Zealand, nonetheless, is still a net exporter, with agriculture dominating in the form of milk, meat and butter, but the agriculture and extraction industries account for less than 10% of the country's GDP overall.
160,000 people in New Zealand are unemployed, the highest number since March of 1994. Now that represents an unemployment rate of 5.3%, the highest in nearly 9 years and up from 4.9% the year before. The number of underemployed people, that's defined as part-time workers who want full-time work, is also rising from 121,000 last year to 138,000 today. But it is the youth unemployment rate that paints a particularly grim picture. That's at 15.2%, up more than 2%.
Came in at 2.2% for the year to the end of September. It's the first time in 3.5 years New Zealand's inflation has fallen inside its Reserve Bank's target band. The RBNZ cut rates by 0.5% in early October to 4.75%, and some suggest the next move in November could be up to 0.75%. New Zealand's inflation peaked at 7.3% in the June quarter of 2022, and that prompted a much more aggressive cycle of rate rises by its Reserve Bank than was seen here in Australia. The consequence is that it pushed the Kiwi economy into recession, which is now expected to rapidly rebound from
in the last 12 months. So let's start there and see where we end up.
All right. So we were talking about a spike in migration, and it was the highest spike we've ever seen. So a big inward migration, 253,000 people, and a net gain of 130,000. Now, where we are in late 2025, we're down at a little over 10,000 net gain. So we've really emptied the coffers really on terms of migration. And what it's done is it's slowed our population growth, which is not a bad thing, but it means that a lot of our growth is now confined to our big cities.
New Zealand curriculum is divided into 8 essential learning areas, which all schools must offer. These are English, the arts, including visual art, drama, dance and music, health and physical education, learning languages. This one, however, is not essential for all schools to offer at all year levels. Mathematics and statistics, science, social science and technology. Each learning area is divided into 8 levels that contain a number of different achievement objectives. The New Zealand curriculum is not prescriptive, but rather provides a framework that allows schools and teachers to be flexible with learning content and context, provided that they cover the achievement objectives. NCEA is our National Certificate of Educational Achievement. It is divided into levels 1, 2 and 3 and usually completed during years 11 to 13 of high school. It is a standards-based system where subjects offer a number of different standards that cover a range of skills. Students receive a number of credits for each standard passed, and the students need to gain a certain number of credits overall to achieve each NCEA level. Students can be assessed through internal assessment, which is prepared and marked by the school. And some work from each assessment can be moderated each year by the New Zealand Qualifications Authority to ensure assessment is meeting the standard. There is also external assessment, which is taken in the form of national exams at the end of the school year. These are marked and moderated by the New Zealand Qualifications Authority. So what does a New Zealand class?
New Zealand runs a public system funded by taxes, free or at low cost once you're a resident, usually after a year with a visa showing intent to stay. You'll register with a local GP. Visits are $40 to $60 for adults, free for children under 14, and hospitals are free for emergencies or inpatients. No bill shock like the US. Serious stuff like cancer, maternity gets 100% coverage, and prescriptions are about $5 with a subsidy card, over 20 scripts per year. Eligibility kicks in with residents, but work or student visa holders get accident comprehensive coverage, ACC, for injuries.
Because Jenny, Winston and myself all do have an interest in this area. And so you can see the 1997 results in terms of the percent who were food secure was 72%. Those with low food security, and so that these are people who are reliant on others to provide the food that they need quite frequently, and are living in that kind of constant state of stress around food security. And you can see that it has increased between 1997 and 2008, and you can also see that higher prevalence there in the Children's Nutrition Survey, reflecting the fact that families with children are more likely to experience food security. And so hats off to the New Zealand.
People use it to refer to whichever parties, either through a majority vote or minority coalition, currently have the most seats in Parliament and effectively run the country. For example, the government of early 2020 is Labour, with NZ First and Greens.
In New Zealand, our state government is separated into three parts: the executive, legislature and judiciary. All three parts are important, and we'll talk about each. To avoid one part of government taking over, which is called an authoritarian government, there's a system of what we call checks and balances in our laws to maintain a balance of powers. However, in saying that, because we live in a representative democracy, the members of parliament that we vote in represent us, and we're a big fan of the power of the people here in New Zealand. As such, there's something called parliamentary sovereignty, which means that parliament's democratic laws reign supreme. The executive. This is what we often refer to as the government, and it's headed by the Prime Minister. The executive is responsible for making day-to-day decisions on how and what New Zealand should spend its money on. It brings proposed laws before Parliament and decides what policies to put in place. We pretty much vote for the executive in the general election, where our votes correspond to how many seats each party gets in Parliament.
The legislature. Put simply, this is made up of all the MPs in Parliament. The main role of the legislature is to make new laws, and this is usually done by debating a proposed law, known as a bill, and then they vote on whether or not to pass it. The legislature are also responsible for holding the executive government accountable and voicing the ideas of the New Zealand public. This means that if you wanted to ban NZQA, although unlikely, you could write to your local MP and ask them to raise it for debate in Parliament. The judiciary. This is New Zealand's court system. It is the responsibility of court judges to interpret and apply the laws passed by Parliament. They do this by hearing legal cases and deciding on an appropriate outcome. The courts can also review the actions of the executive government to check they are also following the law. Even if you are the Prime Minister, you can be busted for doing dodgy stuff.